Hi friends! Last weekend, I participated in a 30-player high-stakes CEDH tournament. I used this tournament as an opportunity to test a slightly different build of Braids than the one I spoke about in my Nightmare Farm video. The changes I made to the deck are as follows. I took out Sensei's Divining Top, Aetherflux Reservoir, Manifold Key, Snuff Out, Slaughter Pact, Peer into the Abyss, The One Ring, Defense Grid, Fel the Profane, Blast Zone, Tormod's Crypt, Bloodghast, and 4 Swamps. In its place, I put in Cabal Therapy, Thoughtseize, Agatha's Soul Cauldron, Verdant Catacombs, Polluted Delta, Bloodstained Mire, Marsh Flats, Prismatic Vista, Contagion, Disruptor Flute, Vault of Whispers, Tiny Bones Joins Up, Beseech the Mirror, Toxic Deluge, Dothy Voidwalker, and Fatal Push. My general thoughts going into the tournament were mixed. Our local meta has gotten significantly stronger over the last 6 months. I've won 2 of these high-stakes tournaments before. The first was with my original Braids build back in August of 2025. The second was with Krark Sakashima in February of 2026. I was initially toying with the idea of running Krark, Rawl, or Blue Farm for the tournament last weekend, and while I love storming off, playing Krark Sakashima or Rawl would be expected of me as I have frequently played storm strategies, so I wanted to avoid playing either. Blue Farm would have been fine, but I'm personally tired of playing with and against Breach, Thoracle, Rhystic, Smothering Tithe centric strategies. While all of these cards are reliable, they feel very stale to me, so I went back to basics and I decided to jam some mono black like I used to at these tournaments. I opted to play Braids for 2 reasons. First, I wanted to do something different and off-meta, and 2, I wanted to put some of my proposed changes to my original list to the test. I played 4 games over the course of about 7.5 hours. I lost 2 games, and I won 2 games, which to me feels pretty good, especially considering we're in a Rhystic slop draw-centric meta. Since I don't remember all of the individual plays in each game, I will do my best to go over the general flow of what happened in each. I will also bring up game-impacting cards that were played. Game 1 was unfortunately a 3-pod. Seat 1 was on Kefka, Seat 2, Rogthras Semi-Blue, and Seat 3 was me on Braids. Kefka went first. I mulliganed down to 5 cards. Kefka mulled to 4. Rogthras kept his first hand. This pod was extremely slow. Kefka's first 2 turns focused on playing mana rocks to get Kefka out as soon as possible. Rogthras played a Badgermole Cub on turn 1, which was pretty nice for him. My first turn, I played a Peat Bog and passed. I got Braids out on turn 2 after playing an Urza's Saga and started drawing immediately. Again, this was a 3-player pod, so I was only drawing 2 cards per turn, not 3. It honestly felt pretty bad. Kefka came out on turn 3 and immediately started to impact the game. Kefka drew 3 cards off of his first discard trigger. I was getting land flooded, so I opted to discard a land. It appeared that Kefka was also getting land flooded and mana rock flooded. On turn 3, Rogthras played Shifting Woodland and Thrasios. On my turn 3, I drew Sheoldred the Apocalypse. At this point, Rogthras and Kefka both had 0-costed rocks out in the form of Mox Diamond, Chrome Mox, and Mox Opal. Kefka also had several other mana rocks on board. I had the opportunity to prod Kefka for some information threatening to blow up all his 0-costed artifacts with an engineered explosives. I was also holding on to a Not Dead after all. I opted to cast Sheoldred to begin punishing both Kefka and Thrasios for flipping. This would prove very valuable in the long run. I sacrificed engineered explosives to Braids at the end of turn 3 and drew 2 cards. Again, more lands, which was surprising since there's only 25 in the deck. I gained life from Sheoldred. I was at 41. Several more turns passed in the same manner, with Kefka forcing myself and Rogthras to discard. Kefka also killed Thrasios, which didn't affect Rogthras much since he had flipped into a Growing Rites of Ithlamok, Gaia's Cradle, and had not 1, but 2 Badgermole Cubs. 1 was a copy. Rogthras opted to put Thrasios into the graveyard instead of the command zone because he had Shifting Woodland out. Rogthras then used Shifting Woodland to flip Thrasios every turn. I kept drawing lands and was eventually hellbent from Kefka. Rogthras also became hellbent. Kefka eventually died to Sheoldred. I laughed. I began attacking Rogthras with Shelly since he was within range to lose by combat damage. He threw an Earthbent land in front of Shelly. I then passed to his turn. Time for the match was then called. He was at 2 life. He top decks an Omni Changeling, making a copy of Shieldred, allowing him to flip Thrasios via Shifting Woodland without penalty. He then flips into an Underworld Breach. He proceeds to Finale of Devastation for 2 for Oboro Breezecaller. He then returns Talon Gates to his hand, and then he casts Breach, comboing off from there, killing me via combat damage with an infinite Finale of Devastation from his graveyard. While this game didn't go the way I wanted it to, it did prove how valid Shieldred is in CEDH, especially if she isn't answered. While my game plan never came together, I almost won just by having Shelly out on the table. On to Game 2. Game 2 was also a 3-pod since I didn't win my first game. I end up keeping LED, Phyrexian Tower, Dark Ritual, Swamp, Scheming Symmetry, Street Wraith, and Jeweled Amulet. I was seat 1, Witherbloom the Balancer was seat 2, and Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy, was seat 3. Kinnan went first. Kinnan came out on turn 1 with a Chrome Mox and a land. Turn 1, I played a Swamp, a Lion's Eye Diamond, and a Jeweled Amulet. I put a charge counter onto the Jeweled Amulet for 1 black mana. Witherbloom played a land and passed. Kinnan played more mana rocks in his turn 2. On my turn 2, I draw a Soul Ring. I play Phyrexian Tower. At this point, I could have played Braids, but instead I opted to cast Scheming Symmetry, allowing Witherbloom to search, while I searched for Necropotence. I put Necropotence on top of my library, and then I cycled Street Wraith by paying 2 life, and drew the Necropotence. I cast Dark Ritual, and then I cast Necropotence. I then pay 25 life to exile 25 cards off the top of my library. On my end step, on Necropotence trigger to put these exiled cards into my hand, I sacrifice Lion's Eye Diamond, adding 3 black mana to my mana pool, discarding Soul Ring. I put these cards into my hand. I spend one of the floating black mana to cast Entomb. I go searching for Disciples of Gix. I put Disciples of Gix into my graveyard. I then use the remaining 2 black mana to cast Cabal Ritual. We're at Threshold, so we add 5 black mana to our mana pool. I then flash in Necromancy, targeting Disciples of Gix. On ETB, I go searching for Trazyn the Infinite, Walking Ballista, and Staff of Domination. And if you can remember right, we already have a Soul Ring in our graveyard. Our combo is now set up. I then spend 1 black mana to cast Songs of the Damned. There are 3 creature cards in our graveyard, so that puts us up to 4 black mana. I then cast Corpse Dance, targeting Trazyn the Infinite since he's the top creature in our graveyard. I then combo off using Walking Ballista, Staff of Domination, and Soul Ring. I win on turn 2, and the table is just as surprised as I am. I've always won on turn 3 with Braids, never on turn 2. I think it really speaks to the power of Necropotence. This was a really fun way for me to show off the capability of this deck, and it certainly shocked the table with how fast Mono Black can put out a win. Game 3 was a 4-pot. Seat 1 was Yuriko, Seat 2 was me on Braids, Seat 3 was Anala, Seat 4 was Rog Ishai. Anala went first. This game was Politics City. Rog Ishai got Esper Sentinel out on turn 1 and was immediately making value. I get Braids out on turn 1 and start drawing cards. I discard a Hoarding Broodlord on one of my end steps. The Anala player looks over to me and seems very interested in my Broodlord. Rog Ishai copies his Esper Sentinel for more value. He plays Stormkiln Artist. I point out that he's likely to win as he's drawing into all of his interaction and has a payoff with Stormkiln Artist to begin making boatloads of mana. He claims it's not like that. I point out to the table that we're in trouble and was ignored. Rog Ishai even copies Braids, drawing even more cards. Time is called on Rog Ishai's turn. Yuriko gets an attack trigger on their last turn. On my last turn, I attempt to reanimate the Broodlord. Rog Ishai responds with a Flare of Duplication, attempting to copy my Reanimate to take my Broodlord. Yuriko puts a mental misstep on the stack. There is discussion for 20 minutes about whether he should counter the copied Reanimate or my original Reanimate. I offer that I won't push for a win right now, even though I knew I could win anytime on the stack. Rog Ishai politics and threatens the table with the idea that he's going to win if he gets the Broodlord. I threaten that I will absolutely try to push if he counters my reanimate. Yuriko, of course, opts to use the mental misstep to counter my original reanimate. I then Dark Ritual out, Necrodominance. The entire table gasps and makes a huge deal about it. I move to my first end step trigger and draw 25 cards with Necrodominance. I crack Emergent Zone and begin to empty my hand on the table. I Cabal Therapy Rog Ishai. He counters it. I then go tutor for something. That something probably should have been Grief to try and strip his hand again, but I got greedy and grabbed Cabal Ritual to try to keep the party going. I attempt to cast Cabal Ritual. Rog Ishai says he has, quote-unquote, seen enough, and casts Flashback targeting Orum's Chant in his graveyard and then casts it targeting me. I am now officially tapped out. I move to my second end step trigger and sacrifice Necrodominance to Braids. I discard down to 7. I still have free interaction in the form of Deadly Rollick and Sickening Shoal in my hand to attempt to disrupt Rog Ishai in something of a spite play on their last turn since they interacted so heavily with me. We move to Anala's turn. Anala plays a defense grid. The table sighs. Rog Ishai stops Anala from pushing. We move to Rog Ishai's turn. Because defense grid is out, the rest of the table can't interact with Rog Ishai. He then proceeds to combo off with Hullbreaker Horror, bouncing his Mox Amber and Wan Shatong back to his hand, making infinite mana, drawing his entire deck up with Wan Shatong, and firestorming us to death. The funny thing about the ending of this game is that even though I was the first to push, it probably wasn't the wrong choice because Anala was going to play defense grid regardless on their turn. Had we not gone to time, I would have waited to try and win on the stack on Rog Ishai's turn. In knowing what I know now, I could have responded to defense grid on the stack by cracking E-Zone and attempt to win during Anala's turn, reanimating Trazyn from my graveyard post Necrodominance, but I think that Rog Ishai would have just cast Orum's Chant when I started to do things if I had waited. Had Anala not been so insistent on slamming defense grid down to protect his win, I would have been in a better position to try on Rog Ishai's final turn. Also, Yuriko still had interaction that could have helped me to disrupt Rog Ishai on his final turn and maybe bring the game to a potential draw if I had offered not to push then. In retrospect, I did the only thing I could, and had I waited, I would have done even less because of the eventual defense grid. Maybe I should have cast Thoughtseize on Anala to nuke the defense grid. Rog Ishai probably had the win anyway, but it felt real bad when Anala inadvertently assured Rog's win. Moral of the story, defense grid is bad sometimes, so be discerning when you play it. Also, it usually isn't a good idea to push if you have a way to win on the stack, but hey, when you're on your final turn, sometimes you just do it anyway because you never know. Game 4 was a 4-pod. Seat 1 was Yuriko, Seat 2 Kinnan, Seat 3 was me on Braids, and Seat 4 was Ayara, first of Lockplane. Kinnan goes first. Kinnan comes out on turn 1, because of course. Turn 2, Kinnan starts attacking after not getting any mana rocks to play. I play Peat Bog. Ayara plays Blood Pet. Yuriko flips then begin. Turn 3, I jam a Necrodominance and draw 20 cards. I don't have a way to win, so I sculpt a hand. I keep a Phyrexian Devourer, an Agatha's Soul Cauldron, and a Walking Ballista in hand. According to the Yuriko player, I discard to exile a lot of quote-unquote good stuff. Ayara comes out onto the field. Yuriko wants to swing on me. I let him. He whiffs with a land. Yuriko then states that he's scared that I'm going to win on my turn because I drew so many cards from Necrodominance. We begin to politic. I promise him a free tutor with Scheming Symmetry so long as it isn't Shadow of Mortality or something that could kill me. At this point, I'm at 7 life. I hardcast Walking Ballista. I play Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Yuriko thinks about countering the Agatha's Soul Cauldron, but I politic hard, reminding him of the Scheming Symmetry I just gave him. I ritual out Braids and sacrifice Necrodominance to Braids on my end step, drawing 3 cards. I'm at 8 cards in hand. I discard Phyrexian Devourer on cleanup. On Ayara's turn, they play a free Sats's Will, attempting to exile all graveyards. In response, I exile the Devourer with Soul Cauldron and begin comboing off. The Yuriko player realizes he made a mistake by making a deal with me. Honestly, I had no right to win there. He should have countered the Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Generally speaking, I felt like the tournament was very chill. The top 3 winners were Rowan, Rogthras Semi-Blue, and Green Goblin. I placed 4th. It's always fun to experience a tournament where the community is of one mind. The Turn 2 Necro win was one of my all-time favorite MTG memories. If that was the only thing I pulled off the whole tournament, I would have been satisfied. The fact that I got the push for wins on the following 2 games was just the icing on the cake. The Rog Ishai player got some flack for being a menace, but honestly, I don't mind playing against the strongest decks. It makes me a stronger player, and while I like to win, it is cool to see what other players pull off. So yeah, it was a fun tournament, and I look forward to getting more games in with Braids soon. Links to my current build of Braids can be found on Moxfield, and are also in the description of this video. If you want to join us on Discord and talk about Braids, just leave a comment and I will send you a link. And if you made it this far, thanks for watching.